Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We just had a major trade. You know what that means.
Front office fire the Kevin Cannon Day.
Let's go. Oh, this is a little bit bittersweet, but here it is.
Fire. Fire.
Oh, cheers to the last Kevin Cannon. Well, we can't even, with Kevin Durant, we never really know. But that may have just been the last Kevin Cannon in Front Office Show history. Oh, Kevin Durant traded to the Houston Rockets.
I'm going to guess no? It's not the last one. Nah, we'll have another one.
Okay.
At some point.
Okay. Well, then I will save it. I will definitely not delete this, the Kevin Cannon. But as everybody is probably aware at this point, Kevin Durant traded to the Houston Rockets, the team that I always thought made the most sense for him. But the return, oh boy, the return. Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick, and 5 second-round picks, one of them being reported as the 59th pick in the draft, or the last pick in the draft. So not a lot there. But Kevin Durant goes to Houston. The Suns get Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick. Now, right now, the reporting out of Phoenix is that Jalen Green is going to stay with the Suns. I'll believe it when I see it, but that's the reporting right now. Keith, I reacted to this already on Basketball Bulletin. I've got a video uploading right now for Lakers Nation. What do you think about this trade?
Yeah, I'll give you a little behind the scenes here, a little inside baseball. I was in the car. Of course. I was in the car. My wife's birthday is Wednesday. Wednesday is the NBA draft. So just not good at all in the Smith house for timing wise. Big work day for me. So we are doing like birthday stuff this weekend, and she picked where she wanted lunch from, and I'm like, perfect, I'll go pick up lunch. I'm in the car, I'm like almost to the place, and my phone starts going crazy, and I was like, what is happening? I will say I was really good. I waited till I parked, and then I picked up my phone, and I'm like, what? Yeah, it was in the car. Of course this happens. So that's why we're a little late going live, because I came home. I did eat lunch. It wasn't going to be something that was going to save, but here we are breaking it down. You're always surprised when a trade goes down, but it felt like this is where we were trending over the last, let's call it 4 or 5 days. The buzz had steadily been building that the Rockets had the framework kind of there. It was just, what are the final pieces going to be? Mm-hmm. And that the Heat were not willing to go all in with all their young players, and that the Spurs were kind of out of it. And Durant had made it enough known, like, I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to go to one of those 3 teams that other teams are a little like, all right, let's back off. So not completely, this is nowhere near Luka levels. I don't know that anything will touch that as far as madness goes for a trade. But yeah, huge trade. And this for the Rockets is, if KD can be KD and he's happy and he's healthy, this launches them, I think, into real contender status in the West. Rather, we saw them. This is exactly what they needed in that first round playoff series against the Warriors.
100%. They were, if they have Kevin Durant, I'm fairly confident the Rockets are getting past the Warriors. They needed someone who could just put the ball in the basket in the half court. They struggled so badly to do that, and Kevin Durant is, even at 36 going on 37, maybe still the best in the NBA at doing that. He is, I mean, certainly among the best. He is phenomenal. This is a guy who put up, 27, 6-4 last season. This is not an over the hill washed KD putting up 10 and 5 per night or something like that. No, this is a very, very high caliber player that the Houston Rockets are getting. And what I think is interesting is, there's reporting out there that the Miami Heat were not willing to put any of their young, I mean, not Kel'el Ware.
They weren't going to do Ware. I think it was that they weren't willing to put all of Jaquez, Jovic, and Highsmith in a deal, which is, I don't know.
They weren't going to put those guys in. I think you could argue Miami should have, but nonetheless, they weren't willing to do that. Now, what did you get for the Suns, the Suns, it's more about what the Suns did not get than what they did get, because they didn't get their 2027 or 2029 first. They got the 10th pick in the draft. That certainly holds value, but the Rockets, are you going to use? You didn't. Reed Shepherd couldn't crack your rotation, and he was the 3rd pick last year. Is the 10th pick likely to crack the rotation? No. So there's no question around the league the 10th pick has value, but to the Rockets, you could see why that 10th pick might be a more movable piece. But you didn't get Tari Eason, you didn't get Jabari Smith, you didn't get, obviously Amin Thompson was going to be off the table. You didn't get Reed Shepherd. You didn't really get a lot of the Rockets' young talent either in this deal. Now, they did get Jalen Green. Keith, I don't fully buy that Jalen Green is indeed staying in Phoenix, because it just doesn't make sense to have Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Jalen Green trying to share the floor together.
And Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal and Ryan Dunn and who else am I missing? Like, yeah, they've way too many guards and wings. Not Ryan Dunn, I guess, could play some at the 4, but like you're just overloaded with too many players at that spot. And so yeah, I'm not fully buying in on the Green stuff.
Now, in terms
that
of
is the reporting right now, to be fair, from people who are tied in. But let's pause here just to say this too. This trade cannot happen until after the league year changes over.
Exactly.
And the reason for that is Jalen Green, his extension doesn't start until after we get past July 1st. And because of that there's poison pill restrictions in there with his extension. So that's going to cause the trade would not work salary matching wise. So this will be a July 6th trade. Because it's a July 6th trade, and I'm not saying it means Jalen Green's going anywhere other than Phoenix. I think this trade will expand because it just doesn't make sense to not take advantage and move out some of the now overstuffed guard wing rotation in Phoenix. Doesn't mean they'll go to the Rockets. That could cause complications. Here's a kind of funky thing too. Jalen Green does not get his trade bonus for this to work as structured. And that is not a small trade bonus. We're not talking like $1 million. It's like $7 million. So that's another reason why this would make more sense for this trade to expand a little bit and go out. Odd thing for Dylan Brooks, he will earn his trade bonus from the Rockets, or not his trade bonus, but his bonus for making the playoffs from the Rockets. Then his salary is upon being traded will immediately flip back $1 million less, because the Suns did not make the playoffs last year. So he gets the money, but it'll flip there, which means for all concerns towards the apron as currently structured, neither team actually takes on money in this trade. It's kind of a funky calculation thing, but it's kind of neat. And that's why it works, because we know the Suns have apron concerns and the Rockets could have apron concerns down the line.
So wait, that's insane. The Suns not making the playoffs actually helps financially this trade work under the CBA.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And that's how close the money is on it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That's how tight it is working around the apron margins. Like that's why the Suns acquiring Jimmy Butler was such a mess when that was a thing, because both them and the Heat neither side could aggregate, take on money. It was just getting very, very messy. So
wow.
So there we are. So yeah, just little fun trade mechanic stuff there. But I do think, we are 2 weeks more than that away from this trade being able to finalize. Again, doesn't mean any out of Green, Brooks, or Durant goes anywhere differently. I wouldn't expect them to, but I do think you're going to see this trade expanded and like Grayson Allen gets moved somewhere or something like that.
And the potential is there for for Jalen Green to get routed somewhere else. You wouldn't expect it, but the possibility is there. It could add Grayson Allen to the deal. Royce O'Neal's another one. There's been some rumored interest too in Caleb Martin. So maybe there's there could be some. I'm sorry, Cody Martin. Wrong Martin brother. So there's possibility there. When we look at the return the Suns got here, what does this mean? Because we'll talk a bit about the Houston side of this. We'll talk about what it means for the West. What do you think the Suns do from here? I can't imagine they're done.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think there's a lot more going on with the Suns. And as Trevor pulls up Spot Track here on YouTube, you can see we've already got it updated. So look at the top I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys. They're all guards.
Yeah.
Guards are wings, right? In that group. Beal, Booker, Green, Brooks, Allen, O'Neal, Martin. Misic will very likely have his option declined. You got to get down to Nick Richards on his non-guaranteed $5 million to
And they don't even want him to be a starter. They want him to be a backup.
Backup, exactly. And then you get into like Ryan Dunn and Oso Iguodaro. So, I mean, they're all of their guys who make 8.7 million or more, if we count Cody Martin at that number, are all guards or like small forwards, like not even really power forwards. So they've got more work to do. They've got to rebalance the roster. They don't have nearly enough size. They are so expensive. You can't just kind of who cares? We'll play Jalen Green at the 4 and just figure it out. You can't do that. You have to try and compete. They're going to need to try and push forward. So this is going to be a team to continue to watch now through the next couple of weeks up to the beginning part of free agency because of all these extra guys. Green and Brooks in the 10th pick in, I guess, 5 seconds, which is also a little silly. Which is good for silly? Phoenix. It's just the number of like 5 second rounders. Like that's just silly. But good for Phoenix because they need the additional draft capital to have like in just other trades later.
Second round picks do matter.
Yeah, exactly. They will matter, not necessarily for draft purposes, but just to be stuff to put in trades. They're good to have. But the value's not bad. It's just weird. Durant didn't want to be there anymore. Green's good. Like, let's not get ridiculous. Is he an all-star? No, not yet. Could he be? Yeah, sure. He's 23 years old. Maybe. Dylan Brooks is good for what he is. I think his contract is perfectly fair. So no real issue with that. And then you've got, the 10th pick in the draft, which, should have pretty good value. So I think this is very much just because of how funky the roster is right now. It's going to take us. We got to see what they do next before we have the full evaluation here. But as it stands, not the worst trade in the world, considering it was very clear Kevin Durant's market just wasn't what it was when they traded for Durant back in the day.
Talking about the draft, and we've got that coming up in a few days here. Now Phoenix having the 10th pick, does that essentially make them the floor for Kamen Malawach?
Yeah, probably. I would say. I mean, I would hope for him.
Right.
Or
he probably goes Bailey before that, I think. But
yeah, I think he does probably go higher than that. But yeah, that should be the floor because here's the challenge. Basically, everybody. I mean, we know Cooper Flag's not going to be in the mix. So every other player, unless you really feel strongly that Bailey's a power forward in the NBA, and I personally don't. I think he'll be a small forward. Every other guy's a guard, like a guard or a true wing in the top 10. So that's one where you could even see Phoenix say, hey, let's say Malawach is off the board. They could go with like Derek Queen at the center spot, or that could be one where they may say, hey, let's trade back, pick up even more draft capital, let somebody else come up and get a wing that they like or need, and we'll just go back a little further. Or you use this as, hey, guys who didn't want Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neal's contracts before, like, can we do something where we put those guys together in a deal and send them out and give you the 10th pick? And that could be the way they do that. I mean, they're in range. I would say they could put that in a Bradley Beal trade. It's just so complicated because of the no trade clause. So you'd have to find the team where Beal is open to going to.
If Beal was open to going somewhere, is the 10th pick enough compensation to take on Bradley Beal? The 2 years, what is it, 110-ish million left on his contract, plus he'd still have a no trade?
Well, I'm sorry. What was that? Sorry, I was reading a message.
Would the 10th pick, do you think, be enough compensation to get a team to take Bradley Beal?
Depends on who you are, right? Like if you were Brooklyn and it's like, hey, that's how we'll use all of our, or most of our cap space, and we get the 10th pick. That's not a great example because Brooklyn also has 4 other first round picks in this draft, which is, really kind of ludicrous. So like, I just like, I don't know, right? Like, that's maybe I guess. If you're a team that has no real way forward, sure, why
But then
not?
does Beal want to go there? Right.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Yeah,
Right.
if you're like, there was some talk at the trade deadline. Remember, like Washington was like, "Hey, we'll reacquire him," and like, does he want to go back? And if I'm the Wizards and I reacquire him and I can get the 10th pick, yeah, I'd do it. Why not? Like that's great for me.
Remember
I'd
the
be
selling
happy to
point
do
was
it.
he can become their all-time leading scorer.
Yeah,
Like
maybe. I
that
don't
was
know.
the selling point
Yeah,
for the Wizards. Like, hey, come back.
sure.
Don't worry, we won't win much, but you can become the franchise's all-time leading scorer. Let's do
And
that.
you were happy here for a decade before, so why
Sure,
not?
sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's go here. Ghost said, so should we just start the conversation now? Where does KD land 3 years from now? And why is he unhappy in Houston? Oh no. Well,
Yeah,
that's
I
why we're
mean,
not going to delete the Kevin Cannon.
yeah, that's it. That's why we keep the Kevin Cannon around. Obviously, that's a big next step in this. Do the Rockets extend him? Do they extend him now? Do they wait? Is that part of this trade? All that'll come out here. We know he's going to the Rockets. What happens next? We assume he's happy. They were on his list, so we assume he'll
Yeah,
be happy to be there. So now let's see where it goes from here.
he's happy he doesn't have to pay state taxes.
Yeah,
So that for
yeah.
sure. Johnny said,
Okay.
I'm hearing Barrett to Portland. Does that make sense for either team? I mean, I guess it depends on
I've
what's
heard.
going to
Yeah,
Toronto in that kind of
yeah,
a trade.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I guess Toronto's busy. Like Toronto
mhm.
was engaged on KD. Toronto's trying to do stuff. Feels like Masai Ujiri is really like ready to make another big move. So we'll see. It's a weird roster in Toronto right now. They're like right at the tax line. They've talk about a team with a ton of wings. You've got RJ Barrett. You have Brandon Ingram, Scotty
Mhm.
Barnes. They'll play him at the 4, but most still see him as more of a wing. You have Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji, Jacoby Walter. Like that's a lot of dudes and not enough minutes to go around.
Let's go here. Senpai said, my math, they can bring back Fred VanVleet for around 15 million and still have both the full MLE and biannual to fill out the margins. Think they need more on-ball creation. Talking about the Houston Rockets.
No
Um,
biannual for them. They used it last year to sign Aaron Holiday. So they
okay,
don't
so
get the biannual. You can only have that every other year if you use it.
hence biannual,
So
right?
yep.
Okay, but is
Yeah.
that right on that they can have the full MLE?
Yeah, oh yeah. So they
Yeah,
are. I mean, if they brought him back at 15 million, they'd
they'd
be
be in
good.
good shape.
I just ran all the math after post deal, and we have, let's see, the Rockets have, and this is including Jock Landale and Nate Williams. They've got 10 guys on the roster, and they're about 33.6 million under the luxury tax, 41.6 million under the first apron. So you got to get to 14 players at least. So if you brought back Fred VanVleet at 15, you have more than enough room. And he won't go that low. Like that's like at that point, he'd probably take the MLE from somebody else
Yeah.
instead of taking that little. But I mean, that's more than enough for me. Bring him back at 25. And that's what I've been kind of pitching. Like you do something where it is like 3 years, 90 million, but like 75 million of it is guaranteed. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really 3 years, 75. And that gets them 30 million a year. And that's still enough room for the Rockets to kind of do all kinds of stuff. Cause you could always waive Landale or Nate Williams, who are on non-guaranteed contracts, and that opens up another 10 million or so in spending power.
And Fred VanVleet, the relationship seems pretty strong there in
Yeah.
Houston. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He knows how he fits
You
with
need a
that
guard.
team. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right. Like,
Exactly.
because now, right. So let's just, we'll jump to this next question in a minute. But if
Yeah.
you're the Rockets, you traded 2 starters because Brooks and Green were both starters. So now Durant comes in for one of them. So I'm just going to assume your starting lineup looks something like Şengün, Smith, Durant, Thompson. You really need Fred VanVleet. Reed
Mm-hmm.
Shepard will take on a bigger role, but you're not ready to hand him your starting point guard role this year. So you kind of need VanVleet back. So I think that's how that'll play out for Houston.
Yeah, agree 100%. And then this question said, do you think number 10 is available? Say 10, 15, 24, something else from OKC to move up to 10. I think that kind of trade for a Suns team that needs as many bites of the apple as they can get.
Sure.
They need to fill out this roster with young talent. Something like that may make sense. So could number 10 be available? Sure. But I also think it'll depend on how they expect the draft to play out and how the draft actually does play
Yeah.
out. Because if somebody they really love is on the board there at number 10, you're not going to move off that pick. You're just going to keep it. So it'll depend on draft. And I think that's going to be true of a lot of these picks, particularly when we look early in the first round. It's very much going to be an eye of the beholder thing. And so I do expect there to be plenty of opportunities for moves on draft night, but I think it's going to come down to how does the draft board actually fall? Because I don't think teams, if their guy is there, are going to be as willing to drop back to say, I don't know, 20 or something like that if they have a top 10 pick.
Yeah. Now for the Thunder too, of course they could overpay. They don't have the roster spots for multiple rookies anyway. So for them to do something like this, sure. If they loved somebody on the board at 10, yeah, go up and get them. They did it before in the draft a couple times already. That's part of the benefit of having all these extra draft picks. I don't know that they would do this, but sure. I mean, that kind of makes sense. I don't know how much more you're getting because they're only jumping up 5 spots. I think you'd take the 2 first, and that's probably what you're going to get. Maybe they'd throw you one of their players if you really wanted them in Phoenix, sure. but I kind of don't think that's how that'll go.
Yeah. All right. Let's go here. Charbel said, if the Lakers pay to move up in the draft, Keith, by the way, what's the number now? What's the most that you can add in when it comes to cash
into 4.75? Like it's somewhere in the range of $5 million.
It's right around that $5 million. That's what I thought it was. Somebody was trying to tell me earlier today it was like $7 million, and then the Durant trade broke, and I didn't have time to check it. I'm like, that can't be right.
Yeah, it's not quite that much.
Would whatever they pay count towards the cap? No, cash that you add in a deal, it doesn't factor into the salary cap.
But it does hard cap you at the second apron.
Right.
Which could be a challenge for the Lakers.
But it's not like if you're trying to get to, I don't know, $15 million in outgoing salary and you have a player that's 10, correct, you can't include $5 million in cash and have that count for 15.
Nope.
That's not how that
it doesn't count for anything towards that. Correct. And it honestly just goes in the other owner's pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where it goes. So good for them when they get it.
Yeah. Hey, $5 million. $5 million.
Yeah, hey.
Sometimes, Keith, I stop and think about these numbers, and I'm like, could you imagine if any of us got just got $5 million?
$5 million.
Yeah. How unreal would that be? Jack said Shams reported the Cavs were involved in Durant talks. How would that have worked for Cleveland? Well, let me pull up the Cavs cap sheet. Is that a surprise that the Cavs may have been trying to land KD?
I mean, a little bit. Would have had to involve Jared Allen and probably Darius Garland if we're just to get to the matching salary portion. What's Garland's at like almost 40, Allen's at like they're 20 still, I think. So yeah.
So that would get you there, and that's
but it doesn't,
maybe another,
because then that's too much on the Suns side.
Right, too much going out. So they would have to figure out.
Yeah, Allen and Strus. I don't know. You could have got there. Allen, Strus, and Okoro.
I do think too, like one of the things when we talk about the Suns, a lot of this trade for the Phoenix side is not so much about what they got, but what they didn't get. One of their stated goals for a month now has been they want a starting center, and they also didn't get that in this trade. So
yeah, that's a good point.
That's something else that they're going to have to do out there on the market if they truly feel like Nick Richards is not their starter at the center spot. That's another box they have to go check out there somewhere. However they accomplish that, whether that be via trade or otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's not the end. Let's face it, there's really nothing Phoenix can do moving forward, barring somebody getting really silly, that would make them a title contender. So we're really in a spot where I don't hate the idea if you go into the season with Nick Richards and my guy Oso, Iguodala as your 2 centers. It's fine. Like this is a team that's at best scrapping for a spot in the play-in tournament, and that's like not gonna kill you there. Yeah, you could go get somebody else, but I don't know. I just like if you get a starting center in a trade, great. I don't know that I'm going crazy to try to go get one. Like I'm not giving up the 10th pick for somebody who's just a get by starting center. Like if I'm giving that pick up as Phoenix, like it's got to be somebody, a real legit starting center for the next several years.
You're not giving it up to get Goga Batatste,
Yeah, no,
who
and that's a
I
perfect
love, but
yeah,
that's the
that's
kind of guy
again.
you're not going to
Yep,
right. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I would
Um,
not do that.
so let's talk about what this means now for the rest of the Western Conference here. Um, is Houston now based, and again, there's a lot of changes I think that are still going to come to both conferences over the next couple of weeks here. But as things currently sit, Houston was the 2 seed to finish out last season. Are they now like the clear cut number 2 team right now behind OKC?
I would say yes. I not by any kind of wide margin, but I would say as today, like you said, we did a lot of these rosters are nowhere close to finished. But you have I think they're probably better than, and I'm just going in order of last year's standings as you have it up on the screen. The Lakers, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Wolves, the Warriors, Grizzlies, and I'll jump Dallas ahead of Sacramento
Mm-hmm.
for next season. So yeah, I think they're better than all those teams. Is it a huge margin between them and like the Lakers and Nuggets? No, not really. And then obviously those teams could make moves that tighten that up or even move them into the same group. I would still put the Thunder in a tier of their own. I mean, they did win the conference by
Yes.
16 games. Yeah, and then KD behind that, and then you kind of add KD to the Rockets behind that. That closes that gap a little bit, creates a little separation. But sure, where do you have them?
Yeah, I do have the Rockets as the clear number 2. Again, I have them getting by Golden State. Had they had Kevin Durant on the roster, I think I've been saying it for a while. I think that Houston made the most sense for KD. He is the thing that they were missing the most on this
Yep.
roster. And I think he will move them forward in a very significant way. Now, obviously, that's health permitting and all of those things that we always have to factor in. But skill set wise, he's perfect for this team. And so I think this is going to be a big step forward for Houston. I think the rest of the West is now going to have to kind of respond. Like we're going to see other teams try to make moves to try to catch up to the Rockets in this situation. So I do think that this is a Rockets team that I can't slot them ahead of OKC. OKC is too damn good. And I don't know what's going to happen tonight in Game 7, but I do think they are ahead of the rest of the Western Conference as we currently sit today, while acknowledging that we have a lot of stuff still coming up here with the draft, free agency, the trade market, and all of that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The other thing,
So
what?
I hate Joe Cronin and my parents.
Why your
hate,
parents
yeah,
too?
why your parents too?
I mean, I guess
I
maybe
mean,
we don't want to get into that.
yeah.
We,
Let's leave it alone. Maybe
yeah,
because he was born in Portland and became a Blazers fan. I don't know.
maybe.
This
All right,
is
let
a
me.
good question though from David because it's related. What changes do you think OKC will make if they lose tonight?
Not
I don't
significant
think they're
ones.
going to make very many.
No,
I wouldn't.
they
Don't
shouldn't.
get silly. Yeah, and same thing with Indiana. Don't like you lose Game 7 of the NBA Finals. That is literally by definition as close as you can get to winning a championship and not.
Yep.
I'm just not gonna overreact to that. I would really like just run it back for the most part. You maybe make a few rotation moves around the edges of your rotation, but I'm not making any kind of all in must
No.
make a trade mega move or anything. Like let's just run it back for both sides. Indiana re-signed a Miles Turner and just kind of go forward. But yeah, don't get crazy. You're right there.
I'm not. I'm not too worried about who wins tonight. Like I think both teams are very deserving. I think just because of the underdog factor, my heart is pulling for the Pacers a bit here, but I just hope we get a great game tonight. I hope
Yeah.
what we don't get is a blowout. I want a game that is not decided with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. That's what I want to see tonight.
Yeah, and we talked about it on Friday. I think it's going to be a very close game all the way through. Then I think it will I think there's a chance Oklahoma City or Indiana, if they win, could pull away late, like in the
Yeah.
last few minutes, and it finishes as like a 10 or 11 point win. But it was close. But I do think it's going to be a rock fight. I think it's going to be pretty ugly basketball at times. Game 7s tend to be very tight because players, I think they get nervous, they get a little struggles, and they just
Yeah.
kind of go that way. So
I think prime drama, if we were to will this into existence, would be OKC up 4 with a minute and 30 to go. because of
Sure.
what this Pacers team
That
has done over the course of the playoffs with their comebacks. Like at every possession would be so nervous time for OKC and the Pacers, their ability to execute. Oh man, that would be a lot of fun. Okay. Let's talk one more thing before we go here. Miami, and by the way, I'm seeing Shams mentioned the Denver Nuggets as another team that were kind of a dark horse team for KD. That's interesting. But
now it's
Miami
just
being
gonna be everybody. Like,
yeah,
right.
every team was a dark horse team for KD. Let's talk about Miami because they were the other finalist here. We know they're going to be in the mix for like every top tier player. Where did they go from here? And is the answer that they get fully engaged on the Jonathan Kuminga front?
Yeah, that's been kind of floating around there for a little bit. So yeah, certainly possible. We could see the Heat, try to do something. They have to be very careful in a sign and trade because that would hard cap them at the first apron. They
Mhm.
do have room, but they're not like they're not insanely under that first apron. I've got them about 5.7 million under. But that's only with like a couple roster spots open. So they could be okay. And there'd be outgoing salary as well in a trade where they went and got Jonathan Kuminga. The challenge in a Kuminga trade, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on it,
No.
here is base year compensation will come into
Mhm.
play. So it becomes an unbalanced trade. That's often when you need a third team to kind of come in as a facilitator or a team with a major size trade exception. So, but yeah, I mean, they could get involved. He'd fill a need for them. They don't really have a whole lot at the four right now, so
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that if that's the direction they go. But yeah, well, we'll see.
All right. Well, this
We
was,
had one
I mean,
more
oh,
super chat come
did
in.
we that I missed?
Yeah, it's just Ace
Oh,
Bailey. We talked about it
we
a
talked
lot
about
on
it.
Friday. It's not stressing either one of us. Seems like he's
Mm-mm.
trying to engineer himself to a specific destination, and we'll see if it works. So,
All right. Well, everybody, this was obviously a not a shock that Kevin Durant was traded, but in terms of the timing of it, was a bit of a surprise. It was one of
two
those,
Sundays
whoa,
in a
okay,
row with huge trades because
that's
the
right.
Desmond Bain was last
The
Sunday.
Desmond Bain trade. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when everybody's like grousing over the next couple days, like when is stuff going to happen? With trade, you just had two monster trades go down. Like
Mhm.
now breathe for a
But
second.
Keith, this doesn't matter. By tomorrow,
Oh yeah,
everybody's going to be, we're going to be getting the shakes a little bit.
yeah,
Where's my
yeah,
next trade, man?
yeah.
Where's
By
my
the
next
end of
trade?
by the end of the fourth quarter tonight, people are going to be fired up. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. But again, everybody, we appreciate you joining us here on the NBA Front Office Show. Make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on those notifications as well. You guys are awesome. And this is going to be, I think, a really, really fun off season. It's just getting started. So hit that subscribe button. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.